Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So here we are with a Volkswagen 2 litre air-cooled CU engine, CU, as fitted to Volkswagen campers, for example, in this case between 1977 and through to about 83 in Europe. There we are. This is not the very world's best engine. This has had a lot of miles, a lot of work. Anyway, we're just going to do a top-end overhaul. That is to say that there was plenty of oil pressure. In fact, oil was spraying out all over the place, down to broken rings and heaven knows what and so on. Plenty of oil pressure though. So the engine itself, the block itself has been prepared. All the little threaded holes have been done. Wait a minute, let's just show you. The insides of the cylinders have been cleaned out where it's going to receive the cylinder itself. This surface has been cleaned of all the silicon goop that has been put there. There we are. Same thing for the hydraulic cam followers. They've been cleaned. They're up and down, they're not coming out, no problems that we've heard of, no rattle on startup. There we are. This seal will get changed, this seal will get changed, but today we're going to concentrate on the underside because you've got to do this first so that you can then check that you've got no oil leak, and it's only then is it worth getting on with. Now here this has the strainer, the plate which goes on there. It's going to have a new oil drain plug here. It's going to have a new washer here for the relief spring and so on. Okay, now this is supposed to be mounted dry, i.e. no goop, because you have to take it off again. Only use goop like Durco, perfectly good stuff. Like here you are, this is the stuff you use. Durco, German, from L-Ring. Only on stuff that doesn't get taken apart, like a crankcase and so on. When it's something that has a service item that has to be taken out, you just make sure it's fitted right, and you just use the sort of paper fiber gaskets that come with it. Okay, so I'm going to get set up and show you where we go from here. So the first paper gasket goes in. We have the 3 plugs with new crush gaskets facing this way. Everything is clean and ready. Let's talk about gaskets. Do not economize on gaskets. Buy a decent gasket set. This is Victor Reitz, which is made up of various manufacturers, but they're all to a very high quality. And what's nice is when you look, it says the best quality, and you look on it, and it's a VW part, And what I would also suggest is that you get yourself a little box that you can close everything up in, because even right at the beginning, you have to open all the packets. And to avoid losing the little bits, I would suggest that you have a little hidey hole. Okay, Victor Reitz, high quality parts. Here's the gaskets. Okay, let's go back to this. Now then, oil strainer. It wants to be pulled out into shape and looking nice, and so on. And not dinted and damaged. Everything has been cleaned down nicely. See? That's fine. And then we have the next paper gasket. Now look, you see there's locating lugs all the way around to make life that much easier. Okay, goes out this side. And you make sure everything is all nicely lined up. Just loosely on, don't force anything, and then you float everything into place. Look, that's starting to look quite nice. Now it's a 13mm nut. There we go. Which gets torqued up. I'll tell you how much it gets torqued up to. I look in the book. 13. All strain at a crankcase. 13 Newton meters. 10 foot-pounds. Right. Are we quite happy with that? I think so. This is set. Put round the wrong way. Nice like that. Right, here we go. And just make sure that it's all sitting down nicely. And that is all it needs. Do not over tighten. Right, same procedure. I use these universal Volkswagen drain plugs because the old one, well, it's all rounded off and it's a little piddly 13mm head and it's not very satisfactory. Now again, look, you see, you want to, it's a conical shape to the plug, so we just want to make sure that the thing is nicely lined up all over the place. There we are. It's a little bit more, but I'll just give it this for the moment for the demonstration. Right, okay. Now we put in this one. Right, valve goes in with the munch out of it. Look, that's got a bit of a wear on it. In first, then in goes the spring, then in goes the hat. Make sure the hat engages into the spring. You've got to keep pushing down with your fingers just till you get the thread started. There we go. You can just use a washer as a screwdriver. And again, we just nip it up and you make sure that the crush washer is crushed and nicely placed. So before we tighten it up too much, just look, you see, there's a little bit of play there. Have another look at that. Like I show you, a screwdriver just to tweak it up. Look, that will do. Okay, now we turn the engine over and we're going to put through here with a little funnel. We're going to put in about that much of oil into the sump and just let it sit there for a while, because I want to see if there are any leaks, because if there are going to be any leaks, now is the time to find them, not later on. Okay, so I put about 4 or 5 pots worth of oil in. You can see, just so it just comes up to the edge of the filler. Can you see? And you can sloosh it backwards and forwards. Look. Glue, 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 glue. I hope the camera's picking all this up. There we are. And then glue, 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 glue. Come back again. There we are. And we just put the, hopefully not going to be needed, drip tray underneath. And we leave that for, well, I'm going to go and have my lunch. Well, hello again. So this engine has sat here for a couple of days now without the slightest drip. So what we're going to do is we're going to tilt that over and let him start to drain. There we are. Something like that. And while he's draining, we're going to start looking at pistons and cylinders. Okay, here is the old cylinder, here is the new cylinder, here is the old piston, here is the new piston. These are AA Performance products, standard Volkswagen 2 litre, assembled in USA with foreign parts which are made in China. I've used these lots of times, never had any problems. They are a faithful copy of the original. As you can see on the old piston, you see Mahler and so on, and here you can see it's just blanked out. It's identical in construction. You see, there's those little springy plates for the oil keepers. Now then, what else? Oh yes, now these pistons have got an arrow. The arrow goes to the front of the engine. Let's not argue about this. That is the front of the engine and it goes that way. Why is this important? Because as you can see, they're asymmetrical there. Okay. Now, I've taken this one out. This has conventional piston rings and so on. And the good thing to note is that I've always found this. They're always nicely apart. You know, they're all spread round. They're not all in one place and so on. So you don't have to take the piston out of the cylinder. You can leave it like this. Look, you see? Whoops. There we go. Look, like that. And I'll show you why and a little bit later on. Okay, you will also have to have your new rings which come out of the kit because they drop onto there. Okay, well what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this piston back into its cylinder with a ring compressor, and then we will then set up to start fitting the pistons. There we are, we've nearly finished dripping. Right, I'll get on with that then. Right, there we go. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to prepare the pistons and cylinders to go into each barrel. Now then, this is number one, with the arrow facing forwards and the flat side facing the middle, and the gudgeon pin or wrist pin, depending on your preference, is pushed through and is just sticking out over the edge. Look, it's just like that, and the retaining ring, the shim ring, is in, because eventually this won't be here. We're going to want to, oh yes, and the circlip is in on this side, right, so that you can slide on. You'll be able to hook the end of the wrist pin, the gudgeon pin, just over the end of the small end bearing, and then you'll be able to just pull him up, just push him through, line it all up, and because this isn't there, you will then be able to put it in with the circlip pliers. Here we are. So each one has to be prepared in advance. Here we are with number 2, which in this case has to have the flat side on the right side, and the arrow wants to be on towards the front, and then the split pin, the circlip, has been put in I would suggest that you treat yourself to a nice pair of circlip pliers. Don't mess about. The circlip and the gudgeon pin goes in, and that's prepared. That was for compressing the earlier piston ring. Okay, so that one is now about ready to go and can go in its box labelled number 2, and then we'll get on with it. Okay, so here is number 2. We put the ring on. This is why we want to fit good quality gaskets. Look, it just drops down. There we go. In there. So this is going to be number 3. So it has the arrow facing that way, flat side, and we're going to be assembling. If you do a lot of these, it's worth making up bits of plastic tube, 80mm. That's for putting pistons back in on the spring compressor. This is for getting the height right on the piston. Then you see, that just makes life that little bit easier. Now we just check that we are indeed going to be putting it in from the left hand side, or are we going to put it in from the right hand side? I think we'll put it in from the left hand side so that the clip goes in the right hand side. Now get yourself a decent pair of circlip pliers. It makes life so much easier. Live demonstration. Not quite in yet. There we go. So it moves like that. You see, you can just put the clips in, slightest squeeze, and it moves. Okay. So that's that. Whoops. Ring. Oops. Not many left now. Wrist pin, and the wrist pin, which is going to go in from this way, and it goes just to there. That's that one done. There we go. So that's the pistons and barrels all done. Okay, pistons and barrels all done. So we're ready for assembly. These have obviously been cleaned. Done all that before. These threads have been degreased and cleaned with a dye so that we can get the correct torque when it comes down to it. Insides of here have all been cleaned all the way around. The cylinder heads are cleaned and ready to go. Well, actually it's lunchtime. Well, good morning. Okay, now we're going to fit number 1 piston barrel into place. Okay, it's all prepared. Right, now, nice and easy, does it? Yeah, that just pushes all the way in, and now we're going to fit the circlip. Now we fit the other circlip in, make sure it rocks. You see, here's the advantage of having long circlip pliers. Okay, so that can now come out, and then we can gently offer the piston in. I'll just get something to clout it. Now make sure that you're nicely lined up. Okay, I'm just having to use the other handheld camera while my magic glasses are charging up, my video glasses. Right, so you do, after you've done numbers 1 and 2 cylinder heads, you do number 4 next because of the oil pump, the oil cooler bracket. So you do that one this side, and then you do the last one that side again. Okay, right, and so that is the last cylinder, cylinder number 3 that we put in. There we are, you see the circlip is in there and so on, so it can all be driven home, and then we can start thinking about fitting the cylinder heads. So we can now get the rings, Victor Heinz, go into the head, 1 and 2, no goop, no need, and you do it like this. The engine's on the tilt, right, and then you undo your keepers, keep your cylinders nicely aligned, and then you can push the head on and put it, and just hold it with just a couple of cylinder head nuts and washers. Why? Because we want to see this gap. We want to look into this gap, and we want to see that the rings aren't doing anything silly like that, for example, which is a classic, right? Okay, so as I say, take your time. You only want to be doing this once, right? And then you can then gently crank the head up and watch it going up into the cylinders, if you like, just enough to hold it in place. Very gently go around, start closing the gap, close it up evenly all the way around. All right. So that the gap starts to close evenly all the way around. Okay. See, it's just hand tight, no more. And what we want to see is that the gap has closed. Okay. Spot on. Okay. It's just hand 4 nuts, no more. Right, now we do the other side. So that is now the other cylinder head in just 4, as I say, 4 nuts, and it's only, you know, it's only hand tight. Look, nice and clever. Right, so we make sure that everything's all right. It looks the same all the way along. Oops. Using this little camera. There we go. See, there we are. Right, so we can now get on with torquing down the cylinder heads, and then we fit the push rod tube. Oh, then we fit the air deflectors, then we fit the push rod tubes, and then we fit the oil cooler. Okay, so now we have both cylinder heads done, and now what we're going to have to do is we're going to torque down the bolts. Now, to save a bit of video time, in the Excellent L-Ring kit, it shows you the order of doing things and so on. We're going to use torque wrench, bar and socket. You go over it progressively. It's 30 foot-pounds, so I do it 10, then 20, then 30. And once you've got to 10, like I have here, check that all the washers really are, nicely in place. It's not so much a problem on 2 litre heads, but on the other heads, they can, wongle about a bit and so on. So anyway, just go through it, take your time, do the job progressively, and there we are. So that is the cylinder head, or cylinder heads, torqued down to 30 foot-pounds, 10, 20, then 30. Now we've got to fit the under cylinder tins. Now be aware, these are handed. You can see, even though they're all bent up a bit, hang on a minute, you can see that the feet on that one are wider than the feet on that one, okay? Feet on that one are wider than the feet on that one. And this will have to go into place. Here we go. So it's got two mountings there, and it fits up tight. And this here is where the famous little 4mm screw is. Now you probably this is going to have to be fettled to get it right. So I'll tinker around with that for a few minutes. Do one, do the other. So now we're fitting the tinware. What I've done in the end is this little hole, that is to say that one there. I've tapped that, it's M5 and I've tapped it out at M6 because there's plenty of meat and so on. Anyway, I fit socket caps throughout. The advantage being that you can use a long socket stick and we can just start nipping everything up into place. See? And then we'll just tap down the tinware, make sure it's all fitting nicely. Then you do the other side. Okay, so that's it now. The tin is nicely tucked into the head and all the screws